Hi, welcome to another episode of Hot Takes, and it is the last day of the tribunal, the employment tribunal of Nurse Sandy Peggy. And I think that NHS Fife have realised exactly how screwed they are. I think they've realised what deep trouble they're in and that they cannot possibly win. And so here, right at the end, right on the last day, they've thrown something in order to try and deflect and to say, well, we haven't broken any rules. And it's a very odd thing to say because it's not a defence. The legal team that are trying to defend allowing men to undress in front of women and to stand there and watch as women get undressed have highlighted the fact that men are allowed to do this in other hospitals. They're saying, oh, it must be okay to do it here because we do it in other hospitals. No. No. It just means that the other hospitals are breaking the law as well. Now, if they're admitting that, then they're just opening up a whole set of worms in every other hospital in Scotland. Are we going to get more nurses now going to go, right on, we don't want this, I want an employment tribunal, I want this stopped? And then they'll all go and look at NHS 5 and say, you stupid bastards, look what you've done. You've opened your gob and now we're all screwed. Now, closing arguments were heard Tuesday, and then the last bit of evidence taking and questions by the judge to the defence and the prosecution counsels was yesterday. Jane Russell, who's acting on both the board, the health board, and Big Bill Upton, claimed that she didn't recognise the Supreme Court's gender ruling. She doesn't recognise it. She's a solicitor, but she doesn't recognise it. What do you mean you don't recognise it? It's the law. She pointed to evidence where a medic was described in glowing terms by his colleague, while Miss Peggy was subjected to a character assassination by her fellow nurses. Yes, my client is a doctor of long standing. He's most excellent. He's a man who likes to wear dresses and likes to go into ladies' changing rooms, but he's an excellent doctor. Nurse Peggy, she's evil butch. Yeah, we've shown how awful she is, all the things she said. Yeah, we couldn't provide any evidence, but we're going to say it anyway. Oh, and the High Court ruling. Yeah, I don't recognise that. Yeah, well, doesn't exist. In my mind, doesn't exist. And then she said, and she highlighted this, she highlighted that guidance had been given out in other hospitals which allowed trans people to use whatever facilities they felt comfortable with. Well, that means the other hospitals are absolutely breaking the law. Because you don't use the facilities with which you feel comfortable because you're making other people feel uncomfortable. You use the facilities that are designed for whether you've got a sticky outie or a pointy innie. You know what I'm saying? Boys and girls will be boys and girls, and they'll stay boys and girls regardless of what goes on in here. She said, my understanding is that within the NHS, Dr. Upton was allowed to use female changing rooms, and given the evidence of most of the health boards in Scotland, and indeed in England as well, they were operating on the same basis. That doesn't defend NHS Fife. Just saying that everyone else is breaking the law doesn't mean you're not. This is terrible, isn't it? It's a terrible defence. She should lose her bloody operating licence for this. Now, self-identification, of course, has just been torn up by the Supreme Court. You can't self-identify as male or female. You are by dint of your biology, male or female. And so for her to sit there and go, oh, but I don't recognise it, is immaterial. Ignorance of the law is not a defence, is it? This is really, really weird. She was asked by Sandy Kemp, who is the judge in this case. He said, I read For Women Scotland saying that biological sex is essentially dependent on sex assignment. But what that means, quite clearly early on, is we use the expression biological sex to describe the sex of a person. But it doesn't say what that actually means. Wouldn't it be your sex at birth? And she said, doesn't say what that contains. She said, I don't understand what that means. So the judge is trying to get from her, elicit from her, that sex is your sex at birth. Also, the judge is using that terrible term, assigned. Nobody assigns you your sex. Your sex is. You know, what your sex is what your sex is. You don't sit there. There's no nurse with a clipboard and go, oh, we'll call this one a lady. We'll call this one a gentleman. No. You're not assigned anything. Your sex isn't assigned, it's discovered. Or observed, if you wish. But they are running desperately scared. So they're trying to go, oh, but don't punish it. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's doing it. Everyone's wrong. Let's go and sue every other doctor, every other nurse, every other hospital, every other health board. Let's sue them all. And still to this day, no one's questioned why a doctor was getting changed in the nurse's changing room and not the doctor's changing room. That's something that needs to be looked into. But hey-ho. Men are men, women are women. The High Court says so, and I don't give one shit what Jane Russell thinks. Thanks very much. Bye.